From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. I'm Tyne Morgan, and here's what's in store over the next 60 minutes. Finally, some clarity on crops that qualify for sustainable aviation fuel, and not everyone is all in.
This is an all or none approach, meaning all three of these practices must be adopted on your corn acres in order to qualify. No-till, a cover crop, and enhanced efficiency fertilizer.
The long-awaited GREET model is finally here, but critics say it puts corn ethanol at a disadvantage.
This doesn't even rise to the level of it does.
Plus, a first look at the Farm Bill. Both the Senate and House release an overview. We have the latest. And the beginning of the petroleum industry in the U.S.
So they didn't even have the tools to actually cap the oil to stop it from spewing out. So it took them 9 days. And you can just imagine that the land all around was just covered in oil.
How striking oil changed the course of history today.
U.S. Farm Report, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Now for the news. It's the news the biofuels industry and farmers have been waiting to hear. The release of what biofuels will qualify for sustainable aviation fuel tax credits based on an update to the GREET model. The SAF credit will be $1.25 for each gallon of sustainable aviation fuel. To qualify, the SAF must have a minimum reduction of 50% in greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, there is supplemental credit of 1 cent for each percent after that. The new model will recognize greenhouse gas reductions from carbon capture and sequestration, renewable natural gas, and renewable power used to produce ethanol for qualifying SAF. It will also include a so-called safe harbor pilot program for corn ethanol produced with climate-smart agricultural practices like no-till, cover crops, and enhanced efficiency fertilizer. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack saying the announcement is an important stepping stone as it acknowledges the important role farmers can play in lowering greenhouse gas emissions. But not everyone is in agreement with the plan. We'll take a closer look at it coming up in our Farm Journal report. Also this week, House and Senate Ag leadership releasing what they would like to see in the next Farm Bill. The Senate plan proposed by Ag Committee leader Democrat Debbie Stabenow of Michigan would enhance USDA's ability to use updates of the Thrifty Food Plan for raising SNAP benefits and would move conservation programs from the Inflation Reduction Act into the Farm Bill, making those permanent. The proposal aims to support farmers, families, and rural communities with specific increases in reference prices for certain crops and mandatory funding for rural development. House Republican leaders providing their own outline, which includes increases for price loss coverage and agricultural risk coverage. Something similar is also in the Senate version. There are also plans to bolster dairy programs and enhance disaster programs in both. House Ag Committee leadership says a markup of their bill will take place on Thursday, May 23rd. Stabenow emphasized her intent to negotiate with key congressional members, including Ranking Senate Ag Member John Bozeman and House Ag Committee Chairman G.T. Thompson, before scheduling a markup. Well, another rule coming out of Washington, this time from the Labor Department, regarding the H-2A program. It announced a final rule it says will strengthen protections for farm workers, adding new protections when it comes to self-advocacy, including the right to invite guests, including labor organizations, to their employer-furnished housing. It clarifies for cause termination, giving workers the right to 3/4 of their payment in a work contract unless they are terminated for cause. It also improves transportation safety, requiring workers to wear a seatbelt, prevents labor exploitation and human trafficking, along with ensuring employer accountability. The rule is due to take effect at the end of June. And the ag industry taking new steps to fight back against avian influenza in dairy cattle. But USDA also announcing it has started testing ground beef for the virus as a precaution. The agency saying it's doing 3 separate beef safety studies. First, it's sampling ground beef bought at grocery stores in states where dairy cattle have tested positive for H5N1. It announced those results showed no particles of the virus were present in the meat. Officials are also taking samples of muscle tissue from sick cows culled from their herd. Another study involves cooking beef to see how much virus is killed at different temperatures. USDA saying that it is confident the meat supply is safe and there are multiple safeguards in place to protect consumers. And severe storms and tornadoes tore across the Midwest and the plains this week. We start in Oklahoma, where officials confirmed at least 4 people were killed, including an infant, after a tornado struck there last Saturday night. One of the hardest hit towns is Sulphur, where an EF3 tornado touched down. But the state saw one EF4 tornado and at least 2 EF3 storms. Damage in the state was reported from the northern Oklahoma all the way to the Red River. Since last Friday, 198 tornadoes have been reported, according to the National Weather Service, marking the second most active April for tornadoes on record in the U.S. All right, that's it for the news. Well, what's behind the string of severe weather that we're seeing across the U.S.? We'll ask our meteorologist next.